Hey MVPs, Ricoknows here. Going to talk to you guys about Duke and their win totals for this upcoming season. If you didn't know, all the win totals are out, so check the Patreon or the YouTube for the videos. I'm breaking down every single team in the Power Four. There's about 66 teams plus Notre Dame, and about 7 reviews have been done. So this will be the 7th one actually. But we're looking at Duke, a team that just finished winning, was it 8 or 9 games this year? They won 8 games, finished 6 in the ACC. If you go check FanDuel, the win-loss total for them is 6.5 going into next season. This doesn't include your bowl game. This doesn't include the conference championship. So what has happened in this offseason? They're going down to 6.5 from an 8-win season. Well, they obviously lost their head coach, Mike Elko. He moved over to Texas A&M. They lost a ton of players in the transfer portal. We'll get into that. And then they picked up Manny Diaz as their new head coach. They made a couple of other coaching changes. But for the vast majority of it is they were a very loaded team last year. And the strength of this team was their defense, the speed of their defense, the greatness of their defense. And they were able to beat a team like Clemson in week 1, right? And they were able to win games that they weren't expected to win and be very competitive in other games. But if you paid attention to their results last season and you looked at how they did without their star players, without Riley Leonard, because they won't have them at all this season. But when you started to look at them, they started to flounder and struggle. The defense didn't come through in certain instances. Losing to Virginia was ridiculous. Losing to North Carolina in double overtime, absurd, right? These points you're putting up, you shouldn't be allowing this many points against terrible teams. Failure to even score against Louisville was embarrassing. Just there was results in the second half that made you go, ugh, what a terrible team. Yet they found a way to beat Troy in the bowl game. They found a way to beat Pitt in the season finale. So there are times they show up and rock out, and they show up and win, and you don't really know what you're getting with Duke. Well, here's what I know what I'm getting with Duke. I know I'm getting a 6.5 win team that I don't believe in, and I don't necessarily see them getting 6 wins. And we'll talk about the schedule here shortly, but let's talk about the team in general. Riley Leonard, not going to be back. He just transferred to Notre Dame. Grayson Loftus is back, and I actually think Grayson Loftus is starting caliber. Like, I think he's a good quarterback. You see it here, 8-4 as far as touchdowns to interception ratio. He took care of the ball. Everybody's banking on Riley Leonard to be great, but he dealt with injuries, and he did not take care of the ball. He did nothing to impress me all season long. I don't know why anybody's gassing Notre Dame. This is the second offseason in a row Notre Dame's gotten a terrible quarterback. Shout out to Sam Hartman. But either way, I thought this freshman in Loftus played good, if not, solid. And then you look at their leading rusher, Jordan Waters, just transferred to NC State. He's gone. Jaquez Moore jumped in the portal, was looking for more, and then he came back. He's going to play for them, and he'll be the starting running back. This is a 5.8 yards a carry kid. This is a good running back. It's a good running back. Receivers, once again, a lot of their guys, like for me, Jalen Calhoun was their speed demon. Just did not get it done. And a lot of these guys didn't show up and get it done when it mattered most. Love Jordan Moore and what he does. I'm going to tell you guys, when you look at a guy with 60 receptions in back-to-back seasons, you think, oh, man, they got a weapon here. They do. They do have a good wide receiver, but is he good enough to change your win total is the real question. I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I want to go and show you guys what they gained and lost in the transfer portal here, right? Malik Murphy's coming over from Texas. This is the backup quarterback. Played okay, did not play great. I think that he is probably going to win the starting job. When a new coaching staff comes in, they bring in a transfer. They tend to lean towards the transfer they're bringing in because they didn't recruit the other guy, right? Shout out to Loftus. And if Loftus loses the quarterback battle, he might hit the transfer portal. That's going to hurt them when it comes to depth at the quarterback position. Once again, it's not a good thing, but I don't think it impacts your win-loss total. Kendi Charles coming over from Liberty, a decent player. Talked about him in one of my podcasts. All these linemen you see, let's skip over these two right here, but you see a bunch of linemen. They did this last year too, where they just go out and comb the highly academic universities, the FCS schools, the Ivy League schools. They go and comb them for linemen, and they don't really pan out, and they don't really start. So I'm not impressed by a lot of these moves. They're not wowing me. I think Micah's coming off of an injury. He's the one with the crazy eyes on 24/7 Sports. I'm just not moved by a lot of these signings. Ozzie Nichols coming over from Princeton, another highly academic school. It's just hard to get transfers at Duke because they're so good academically. So I'm not moved by some of these. Javon Harvey leaving ODU, was supposed to go to Texas A&M. I told you guys, terrible transfer going to Texas A&M, but because I didn't think he's that caliber. But he was listening to Mike Elko. I can go play. They're recruiting him. And then he realized, oh, no, I want to go play at that school, Duke. I can play at Duke. I can play for Mike Elko at Duke, not at A&M. So he's going to Duke. I don't think he's great. Don't let the recruiting websites fool you. They rated him really high and thought he was going to be going to A&M, so they gave him all these rave reviews. And then they saw he went to Duke, and now they silent as a damn mouse, right? Outgoing transfers. You're going to see stud after stud after stud. 2-year starter Brandon Johnson, gone. Went to Oregon. Jordan Waters, team's leading rusher, gone. North Carolina State. Dorian Mousey, gone. Going to Auburn. R.G. Oben, these are defensive linemen that are studs and make a difference. Gone. Going to Notre Dame. Riley Leonard, Notre Dame. Aeneas Peebles, you'll be seeing him start at Virginia Tech. Jade Watkins, still sitting out there waiting for it to happen. And these three jumped in the portal. They're not really dedicated to this team, if you ask me, but they're coming back, right? Jalen Stinson would have probably been the biggest loss out of all these because he's a very good safety. Just plays fast. They look good. But when you see the amount of production they lost on the defensive side of the ball, which was their strength, and then they lost some guys to graduation in the NFL draft, I just don't believe Duke's going to have the same defense that you anticipated, and I don't think they got any upgrades on offense from what they had last year. I think it's a worse team all the way around. So, when we go look at their win totals, let's go here. They're going to beat Elon. They're going on the road. Now, they beat Northwestern last year. I don't know if they're really better than Northwestern. Remember, guys, I believed in Northwestern later on in the season. I told you guys they would win their bowl game. Who they beat? Utah? I think it was Utah, right? At the end of the season. And I just said, oh, yeah, this is going to happen. I really believe in Northwestern. I don't want to be wrong. Yeah, they beat Utah 14-7. I told MVPs, bet on this. I can just see Northwestern trending towards being good, winning their last 3 games. You got a new coach. Your interim coach they brought in, he's a damn lumberjack. He's a Bison, former North Dakota State defensive coordinator. This dude is about just being tough. I really like Northwestern to win this game. That's how I feel about Northwestern beating Duke early in the season, second week. But even if Duke wins this game, they're going to beat they're going to be 4-0. If you believe that, they're going to be 4-0. They're not beating North Carolina. They're not beating Georgia Tech. They're not beating Florida State. They're not beating SMU. They're not beating Miami, NC State, Virginia Tech. So now you've got them beating Wake Forest. That's 5. Even if you have them starting 4-0, that's 5. And then you go, well, I got them beating SMU. Well, that's 6, buddy. How the hell are you getting to 7? I don't see this over. It feels like a 2-unit bet. So when you go look at the chart, excuse me for a second here. You see it here, Duke, it's a lock. I like the under 2 units, under 6.5. I just don't see how they get there. I can stretch and say they get to 6 on a really good season, but I don't see it, man. Every team that I have them losing, if you didn't know, the way it breaks it down here, they can't stop Omarion Hampton at North Carolina. That's a real team right there. That's a real running back and a real problem. Okay, North Carolina's going to beat them. Georgia Tech, no way you beat Haynes King and the boys. Brent Key, I love Georgia Tech next season. Florida State, just a different echelon, a different class of athlete and talent. If you think they're beating SMU, congrats. They're not beating Miami. They're not beating NC State. NC State has dominated the transfer portal, has their starting running back, okay? They're not beating NC State. They're not beating Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech and Kyron Drones and Byshal Tutton, and they're just going to be on a different level, and they got one of their defensive linemen. I'm telling you, here's how I put it. Duke made these teams better with transfers. Duke lost transfers to these teams and made them better. No way Duke beats these guys. And if you think Duke's beating them, then go for it. I think Duke loses here. I got Duke winning 4 to 5 games. 6 doesn't sound right, and 7 is absurd. And it's at 6.5? I would go put 2 units on this right now. I know there's some people out there who aren't advocates for futures bets. Bro, it's your tax return. Go put it out there. You'll get it back later, and you're going to love when you get it at the end of the season. We're going to hit on a bunch of these bets. We're going to be laughing, and all you guys are going to be saying, I wish I made the bet. I wish I made the bet. And you didn't make the bet. Promise. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Good luck, y'all.